Hi, 7th graders, and welcome to Monday, December 14th, our last Monday before 2020 ends. And I know you're probably getting excited just like I am. One of the fun things that I like to do with 7th graders at this time of the year, and I've done it with 7th grade classes for like 12 years, is write Limerick poems. And they are fun, silly poems. They can kind of make fun of things and kind of are jokey, so they're not serious poems. They have a specific rhyme and meter to them, and I have samples for you at the very end. So anyway, let's get started on our limericks because you will be writing some. So a limerick is a silly poem. It has 5 lines. It's funny and nonsensical. It really does not have to make any sense at all. You can even make up words if you need to help finish a rhyming pattern. The limericks were made famous by Edward Lear, and he wrote a book called The Book of Nonsense in 1800. So these have been around for a long time. There were many times of war between the Civil War, the 2 World Wars, and a lot of people the soldiers would sit around and tell stories and make up poems. And so it is thought that these kinds of poems found their way to the battlefield and that people had a lot of fun with them. So if you ever want to look for that book, The Book of Nonsense, it's an entire book of silly limericks. So the next question is how to write a limerick, and that's often the hardest part, is getting started. So the first, second, and 5th lines rhyme with each other. So I always recommend that you write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a sheet of paper, just straight down the margin, and that you kind of star lines 1, 2, and 5. And then that way you can remember that those rhyme. And they typically have 8 or 9 syllables in each line. But your 3rd and 4th lines, they will rhyme with each other, and they're shorter. So they're not going to have as many syllables. And you'll see the pattern in just a few minutes. Limericks will often start, there once was a, and then you fill in the blank. Or there was a blank. So for example, could have been there once was a silly frog. Or you could say there was an old man who was fat. And that could start your poem. So you often think about, hey, what do I want to write a poem about? And you try to think along the lines of being silly. So maybe your silly cat or a silly dog, or maybe a shape in the clouds or some funny cartoon that you've seen. So they're lots of fun to do. All right. The purpose of limericks is not to be serious. You're not going to write a love poem out of a limerick. You will make jokes. You'll be silly. You might add some fun to pictures or occasions. So one of the things that I've always done with my 7th grade class is that we write a limerick the last couple of weeks of school. And then at the end of school, if we had some sort of assembly or had everybody together in the sanctuary, we would read our limerick. However, since we don't meet together right now because of COVID, we won't be reading them out loud. But I would love to, at the end of the year, publish some of the poems and have some fun with them. Okay, so getting started. I always like to think of a topic to start my limericks with, and I decided that I would use you guys, so the 7th grade class. And I may work on a series so it would have multiple verses, but right now I'm just doing one verse. So I would start off with, there once was a 7th grade class. It's really as simple as that. There once was a silly cat. There once was a bug on a rug. You can start it very simply. Now you want to think of a word that rhymes with class, like pass. And so I usually just go through the alphabet and start saying the different words that rhyme. and I just jot them down so that I can remember them, because I know that I have to have 3 words for lines 1, 2, and 5. I have to have 3 words that rhyme. So I chose pass, and here is my limerick, the first 2 lines. There once was a 7th grade class that they definitely, I spelled it wrong, they definitely wanted to pass. So there once was a 7th grade class, they definitely wanted to pass. All right, now I move on to the middle lines. We shift gears. It's going to be shorter and smaller lines, 3 and 4. And let me pull that out. Okay, so I was trying to think of what you guys were like, and I thought about that the boys at least like to talk. So I put they talked all the time. Then I had to sit and think of words that rhymed with time. Now you can kind of fudge it. Wine does not exactly rhyme with time, but it does have the long I. So I use whined, and sometimes they whined. So here are my first 4 lines. There once was a 7th grade class. They definitely wanted to pass. They talked all the time, and sometimes they whined. And now I have to finish, and I have to rhyme with class and pass. Okay? So let's see how I finished it. But they always had a blast. And I'm sure that you would agree with that. So there is my rhyme. Let me read it again. There once was a 7th grade class. They definitely wanted to pass. They talked all the time, and sometimes they whined, but they always had a blast. All right, so I promised you some samples. So here is the first.
Hello, how are you? I'm Nick, here to teach you a fun little trick. To have a good time when writing a rhyme, try writing your own limerick. There are limericks of all different kinds, so how do you write one that shines? You'll see that it's cool if you follow the rule. A limerick is made of 5 lines, so listen close to this song. Lines 1, 2, and 5 are all long, and in poems of this sort make lines 3 and 4 short, and I promise you'll never go wrong. You need to be sure and contrive to rhyme lines 1, 2, and 5. Then do it once more with lines 3 and 4, and your limerick surely will thrive. So let these pointers take hold, and if you'll write as you were told, at the rainbow's end you'll find there, my friend, your own limerick pot of gold.
And now some additional samples.
Limericks. There was an old man in a tree who was horribly bored by a bee. When they said, "Does it buzz?" he replied, "Yes, it does. It's a regular brute of a bee." There was an old man on some rocks who shut his wife up in a box. When she said, "Let me out," he exclaimed, "Without doubt you will pass all your life in that box." There was an old man who said, "How shall I flee from this horrible cow? I will sit on the stile and continue to smile, which may soften the heart of that cow." There was an old man who said, "Hush, I perceive a young bird in this bush." When they said, "Is it small?" he replied, "Not at all. It is 4 times as big as the bush." There was an old man with a beard who said, "It is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard." There was an old person of Ware who rode on the back of a bear. When they said, "Does it trot?" he said, "Certainly not. It's a mopsicon flopsicon bear." There was a young lady in blue who said, "Is it you? Is it you?" When they said, "Yes, it is," she replied, "Only whiz, that ungracious young lady in blue." There was a small boy of Quebec who was buried in snow to his neck. When they said, "Are you frizz?" he replied, "Yes, I is, but we don't call this cold in Quebec." There was a young lady of Niger who smiled as she rode on a tiger. They came back from the ride with the lady inside and a smile on the face of the tiger. There was a young maid who said, "Why, But I look in my ear with my eye. If I give my mind to it, I'm sure I can do it. You never can tell till you try.
And there you have it, how to write limericks. So I have posted some worksheets up on the site, and so if you want to print those out and use them to write your limericks, you can feel free to do that, or you can just do them on your own paper. So hopefully you've enjoyed learning about limericks, and I can't wait to see what you come up with.